I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. You know, this is the time of year, the very beginning, where everyone starts thinking about their yearly plans. And we're here to talk about how annual planning is a bit of a trap and where quarterly planning is where real growth happens.
Yes, listen, you know that we're all for doing your goals, like absolutely mapping out and kind of doing it 360. If you haven't listened to our goals podcast or taken our goals workshop, DM us, but look for the goals podcast. But that is a given. And one of the disconnects that we'll remind you of is that a lot of times when people are kind of like data dumping their goals, they forget to do it in alignment with their vision, their complete vision of where they're going, right? So when goals are just kind of half-assed or not a full 360, including your personal side, like all facets of who you are, then you're not setting yourself up for the full potential and laying the foundation for you to be able to hit that. So we want to start by saying, listen to our goals podcast. If you haven't taken one of our goals workshop, definitely do that, because that will give you the fundamentals and the foundations to really plan out your year in a way that gives you sustainable momentum and that gives you results beyond what you've gotten before.
Absolutely. And, you know, while we're sort of heading into this podcast, I want to talk a little bit about why annual reviews, I mean, Lynn talked about it a little bit, but why they fail, like why doing like a yearly goal is kind of a fail, and sort of what the benefit of doing it quarterly is. So the number one reason why the in my opinion, that annual reviews fail is that there's too long of a feedback loop in between goal setting. So you set a goal in January or December, and you have to wait a whole year to decide whether or not that actually worked out for you or if it was the right goal. There's just too much space there for self-delusion and for procrastination and for all the things that happen over the course of the year. So when it comes to quarterly reviews, we're really thinking about like building into these 4 built-in pivot points that you have within the year. And we use it quarterly because, you know, from a business perspective, we really kind of think in quarters. So it gives you time to adjust offers, to shift your marketing, to realign your capacity, or to realign, you know, your goals, or to reforecast the revenue as it's building, because you need to have those kind of benchmarkers in order to see where your year is going. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same New Year's resolutions you have every single year. And I see these memes where it's like, I got all of my goals, and it's, you know, make $2,200 or $250,000, and then they like rewrite it, make $2.50, and like those kinds of things where you're kind of rewriting your goals to make sense based on where you are, rather than using a checklist over the course of the 4 quarters to make sure your goals are in alignment and actually going forward.
Yeah. And a strategic checklist, guys, a strategic checklist. Yeah, I agree with you. I love that you use that term, that the feedback loop, like there is too much. Listen, people either over plan the year and they burn themselves out. So they pack everything in without real true strategy and touch points, or they under plan and then they react to everything. Or in my opinion, they just kind of set it and forget it and think that it's magically going to happen. But being the CEO of your business and of your life and getting the great results, that's not where you want to be. So the first thing I would say is, obviously, once you've set your goals, you've reverse engineer it, you've kind of looking at it through a 12-week sprint. So looking at it through 12-week kind of sprints. What's the main things that you want to get done in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4? With that being said, there is like a seasonality also within everybody's year. So maybe you're launching a new product line in July, then your seasonality within the year, that up to launch, you know, that quarter might be more planning and prepping versus pushing and advertising, right? So we'll give you the specifics here in a second. We're just kind of laying the foundation of what you need to be thinking of in that 12 week chunks, and kind of that annual planning broken down into quarters. So keep all of this in mind, because when I'm saying this, I think of one of my favorite analogies where, and I forget if there's an actual title to it, but where you have the jar and you put in the big rocks first, and then is it full? Yeah, it's full of big rocks, but is there space for other things? And then, yep, so you put in the pebbles, and then, okay, is it full? Is there still space? Yep, there's still space. And you put in the sand, and then you put in the water, and then it's full, right? So big rocks first, then the smaller, then et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of how we want you to be mindset wise in creating that strategy, that plan, but in a quarterly sprint chunks.
Well, from a psychological standpoint, there is a psychology around short cycles. So people are more likely to stay more consistent when the timelines are shorter. I mean, this is like proven goal setting research. If it's a smaller deadline or smaller time, it's it's why you'll see often a 6-week challenge or a 4-week challenge. Or if it were a year-long challenge, nobody would join it at a gym. And we always talk about it from a fitness perspective, but there's a reason, a psychological reason why people are more likely to sign up for shorter times. So when you think of it from a quarter perspective, it's less daunting than thinking like, oh my God, I have to get all of this done in a year. So this really kind of eliminates that all or nothing behavior of like every 90 days, you get to restart without blowing up all of your business. And that's going to really help from a psychological standpoint. And I've always loved that analogy of the rocks and the pebbles and the water. I think that's such a great example of how capacity changes and how you look at things differently. And so absolutely look at your mindset from that perspective. But when you're trying to convert your quarterly reviews into action, you have to look at those big rocks first. So identifying that one, because if you try to put the water in first and you put the sand in first and the pebbles in first, there's no room for the big rocks. So if you start identifying those one signature priorities per quarter, and as Lynn said, like maybe it's that you've got a new product launching in July and you're going to be ramping up, but think of like, what's that one signature priority you're going to have? And then we're big on threes, choose 3 needle moving tasks that are really need to be nailed down in that quarter, and then set those weekly checkpoints. So it's really reverse engineering what that looks like. And, it does take a little bit of planning and a little thinking ahead. If you think about your big goal for the end of the year, breaking it up into quarters, then breaking it up into weeks, then breaking it up into tasks could take a little bit of time, but it's worth it because it's more likely to actually come to fruition.
Yeah, a couple of points on yours. And I want to give you another visual is you said restart, and I want to take that back. We don't want you restarting. We want you actually starting the next quarter. And because there is a little bit of a mindset thing there, it's like this kind of like start, stop mentality. We don't want you to get into that. It is a flow. And that's why when we originally opened up, said, okay, we're setting the goals in alignment with the big vision of who you are, where your company wants to be in 10 years and 5 years, whatever that is. And then I love that Amanda said, like, picking that one primary role or that one kind of quarterly in alignment with, right? So a lot of times it's themed, or there's a big thing like when Amanda and I were launching a book, right? So we knew that we were launching a book, January 5th, we'll say. January 5th was the launch of the book. So that quarter before, what are all the things that we need to be doing in order to be able to hit that? That doesn't mean other things aren't happening outside of this big goal, but that is our primary focus for that particular quarter prior. And the 3 tasks, I think of that you break up in that primary goal for the quarter, think of it as 3 sub goals versus tasks, because the tasks are going to come in. Tasks are daily check marks, right? Tasks are the daily actions or the weekly tasks in order to get you to those 3 sub goals and that 3. So you can call it a task or you can call it sub goals, because I can hear some of you saying tasks like that's going to be checked off in a heartbeat. No. So actions, tasks, strategy, all these are part. Again, listen to the goals one. There's different aspects of goal setting, etc., that we don't want to get too deep into, but keep that in mind. And yes, we are big in threes. And also, again, the seasonality and how you frame that. So if it is like a lot of times a very simple structure, this is not rigid, this is just to give you an idea, is early on. So earlier quarter one is more about clarity and foundation and systems, right? Like that kind of push to, or that build, right? That the fundamentals, because you've slowed down at the end of the year. Most people slow down at the end of the year. And then that second quarter might be more growth and visibility and that super demand of push, right? Three might be the delivery, like ready to deliver and refinement and kind of revising. And then end of year is like wrapping things up, continuing to, what would be a word, like consolidate, or like what worked, what didn't, what can I change, preparation for the next year. So again, this is not a rigid, this is to kind of give you an idea. Once you have your goals, setting that seasonality or that framing of each quarter in the right way that's going to help you hit that marker with the big picture in mind. So even though you're breaking it into quarterly sprints or 12-week sprints, because quarterly also doesn't have to be January, February, March. Like if you don't work on a January to December kind of mindset, that's okay. Like don't be rigid. Use this as a framework and as an idea to break it up. And the last thing I'm going to say is, listen, like this is where my office supply addiction will come in handy, is print off. I see this, like, and I remember when I used to make my clients do this all the time, like when I was doing workshops and had like, 15-week things that people were involved in and stuff. And we literally would print off. And I remember doing this for myself. I had a dry erase 12-month dry erase calendar that sat on my wall, but we would print off each month, they'd fill it out, right? So, and then we use a little sticky note. So they had the theme of the quarter, and then they would break out like, okay, this is my main priority and my sub goals. And this is what I need to do on this week, on this week, on this week, on this week. Like this is the benchmark or the goal or the task that I want to hit. These are all the strategies that I can use, et cetera, et cetera. That's getting more into like the goal side. And it was incredible to watch how, first of all, how much clarity, how much ease came in, and how much like excitement came in, because it was these just little bite-sized quarterly chunks. Quarters, like it feels like that. I can't believe it's the end of the year already. Like it's insane. Like things like go so quickly, but when you do it in this manner, it absolutely, and I keep hearing this, so I'm going to say this. And for those of you who like to pick a word for the year, that's like picking a theme for the quarter as well. So for those of you that lean into that, it will absolutely maximize your efforts, your direction, your impact, and your capacity. Like we only have so much capacity. So it's incredible.
Absolutely. And when you're looking to make those changes and make the reviews, I like to look at 4 specific areas every single time. I know we're always on 3s, but this one's a 4. So number 1, the data. Like what do your numbers actually say? What's actually happening in your business or not happening in your business that needs to change? Then decisions. What needs to change the most? What's an immediate red flag, an immediate, hemorrhaging of funds or cash flow or things that need to change immediately? And then you look at your desires. Like, what do you actually want to see happen next quarter or next year? What have you been wanting to see that you haven't really allowed yourself to have because you were really shitty at goals? You were really shitty at making the tasks happen. So like, what are those things? And then destruction are just the things like, what needs to go? What's the thing that needs to burn? What do you need to get rid of? What are the things like you can slash and burn, ruthlessly slash and burn in order to be more productive? Because as Lynn said, we only have so much capacity. There's only so many hours in the day. We may have 24 hours, everybody, but there's only so much you can do. So where can you make room for what really matters in your business and for what really is going to grow you as a person, as a business, as, spiritually, relationship wise, whatever? You got to make room for it. So you have to get rid of some stuff. There's going to be things that you're just going to have to slash and burn. And I promise you, as somebody who is a an absolute control freak. I acknowledge it. I admit it. I want to micromanage things sometimes, a lot of times. But there's something so freeing about getting rid of stuff on your plate and really being honest with all the busy work that you give yourself and just letting it go and moving on to something that actually is going to make something. So when you're thinking about your quarterly review, think about the actual numbers, the data, think about the decisions that you need to make right away that needs to see, like the change that needs to be seen. Think about the desires, like what you actually want to see in your business, and then think about destruction. What can you get rid of? What's not serving you? Where can you cut those ties and make things happen?
I'm going to add one more D to that in the generalness of this is defining what is done, right? Because we often don't talk about and I know we're kind of weaving in and out of our goals mentality, but this is very much a part of it. Like you're setting your goals and you're making things happen in a quarterly way, right? Breaking your year into quarterly. But clarity absolutely beats motivation, beats momentum all day, every day. Because if you don't know a done mark, if you don't know where that line is and there's vagueness to it, then you're opening up the door for procrastination, for like not the working harder, not smarter type of way, like taking the scenic route, which, you know what? I can remember doing goal setting, doing different things with people, and they'd be like, but I like that. You never know what's going to come up. We don't want to squish that and poo-poo that. But at the end of the day, like, okay, but you're spinning your tires. And if that's what you want to do, then you're probably not our ideal client anyway. And this probably isn't right for you. And you can, again, don't be rigid in the things that are being delivered to you, because you can take this and use it in the way that's going to work for you and implement things for you. And I know we talked about a little bit ago about the whole annual, breaking it up into quarterly, what those quarters look like, but then use that framework and once you have everything broken up, you have that one for the month, you have the secondary goals, you're starting to map that out. Because in the quarter, you're also going to have like building, pushing, executing, testing, all the things that Amanda just said, like that's part of the quarterly cycle. It becomes quicker because you're in it. It's not the huge kind of momentum that you have to, but those frameworks, breaking it down into that cycle and creating a rhythm. And that's where the momentum will lie, creating a rhythm with this pattern, the frameworks in which you have the check-ins, everything that Amanda and I talk about, like plugging in like that weekly, okay, what do I have to do this week? What are my 3 non-negotiables for the day? Every day, right? Where do I need to check in? If my check-in is on a Friday, or if it's on a Saturday, or if it's on a Sunday, how did last week go? What do I need to change? Absolutely reviewing the numbers, all of that. It's based in reality in what's in front of you versus just in a reactionary kind of way. It helps you build a momentum that is going to give you results at a very different, not standard, but in a very different way. And this rhythm and this building like this allows you to step away, allows you to not micromanage, allows you to take holidays, allows you to have shit weeks that are going to happen because life's, and sometimes life's hard. And so, because you're also, by doing this, building out the year, like Amanda and I are talking about, in quarterly chunks, you are by nature also building systems and processes. I know it sounds silly. I mean, obviously we want you to document these, but it's a mindset shift. It's like a by result of doing your annual year like this.
Absolutely. And ultimately, CEOs, business owners who implement a quarterly cycle pivot sooner, they spend smarter, and they're going to see opportunities that are far ahead of their competitors way sooner. There's something about looking ahead. And I had this conversation with a client of mine just a couple of days ago, saying, like, when's the last time you really sat down and did CEO work and looked at the future? And she was like, I don't even know what CEO work is. And I'm like, well, there's your red flag. And she was so, she was living day to day. She wasn't even in January yet. It's only, from what we're recording this podcast at the end of December, like it's close to January. And she wasn't even in January planning yet. I'm like, I need you to get on a quarterly, think ahead, look at your schedule. Like, let's break this down. Let's create some real goals, because you are going to see incredible success happen much faster if you get on that quarterly cycle.
Well, because then if we don't, we're in reactionary mode and we're just like, and then we get caught up in the day-to-day business shit. And then what happens is the end of the year happens and we're like, what just like, where did the year go? Or we're exhausted, or we brought on new things that we didn't need to bring on. To share, like, Amanda has gotten much better, but she would be in the beginning when we started our business, she'd be like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? I saw this. What about this? And I love the ideas. And then I'd be like, is that part of our bigger plan? Like, is that something we can weave in and implement? Is that something that needs to be done now? Or we roped it because it didn't fit in. And I'm not saying it, and both of us can be very OCD in our own ways and specific. That would be like trigger kind of mine to say, okay, then we'd have a conversation around it. Okay, does that really fit in where we're at in this cycle in our business, in alignment with, or we're just adding things onto our plate that's going to take away from the momentum and the efforts of the big thing that we're hitting, right? When we were doing our first book, I remember it happening a lot. And it's exciting because new ideas and things are flowing. And do we need to table that? Right. So it's like having that momentum and holding the container in the space. And like you said, asking yourself, does that really make sense? Da, da, da. And so that way you're building momentum with less burnout or opportunity for burnout, because it's, again, like all these parts will help build a system that is helping carry you forward stronger, more effectively, more directional, more intentionally. And when you're building 12-week kind of containers, you're absolutely able to look at and plug in where your rest needs to be. And everybody's rests look different, but you have to do this because when you come back to things with fresh eyes and re-energize, you're able to see things in a different manner. You're able to look at it through, well, I mean, to repeat myself, through rested eyes, through clarity, because you're not in the chaos. It's like the forest through the trees type of moment. So it's really, really important.
So yeah. Have we convinced you yet that you need to look at your quarterly goals? We said enough to convince you that quarterly goals are important?
We have more. I have more. So to recap, you want to look at the quarterly stack upon one another, right? So they're not independent from each other. Amanda and I talk about this all the time, that they feed into one another. So you're not starting over every 90 days. You're compounding the interests and the efforts. And so by quarterly 4, you are completing, or whatever that is. It's not a scramble. It's not at the end of the year panic. Every end of the year kind of focus are, again, and Amanda talked about some of them, but those, even the end of the quarter, you want to close the loops. You want to say, okay, what worked, what didn't, what can I improve? What do I need to let go of? Even client-wise, who should I renew? Who should I not renew, right? Clean up your financials. Amanda will talk about this. And if you're doing it every quarter versus at the end of every year, it gives you the ability to not feel like you're stressed. Like everybody that waits to the end of the year to like pull out the receipt shoebox and then like go through it all. And you're like, fuck, half of them I can't read anymore because I don't know why they print with ink that
it's like magic disappearing ink. I feel like magicians are using, yeah.
Anyway, you're able to like learn the lesson and in that quarter versus at the end of the year and be like, oh, what should I have done there? Right. So looking at the year in a quarterly way absolutely will save you so much. 12-year sprints turn a vision into reality. It turns it into focused chapters. It's kind of like reading a book, although God bless my 9-year-old grandbaby. She's big into reading now, and she'll get on the phone. She'll be like, no, I read this whole book. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't remember the last time I read a whole book in a day. Most of us don't. We read a chapter or two. Amanda, you might be different. I know.
I'm up to 109 so far this year. I still got a couple weeks left.
But most people like think of it as chapters, right? And so it's a repeatable rhythm framework. that is respecting you, respecting your energy, respecting the vision in which you have. It's honoring the ambition that you had or have and your life. Like it absolutely will give you your life back in a different way versus the annual kind of planning.
Absolutely. 100%. We can't say enough about the importance and the benefits of planning on a quarterly cycle for your business, for your life. I know it might seem like a lot, but once you start implementing it, it's actually not. And it makes it so much easier to achieve, so much faster, and so much less stressful. Promise you. Less stressful. If we want that in our businesses, we want to have more time and less stress. And this is one of the key ways to do it.
Yes. So we want to hear from you what you took away from this, and maybe something that these podcasts never seem long enough, but we always want to respect that you don't want to listen to an audio book as well, because we could talk on and on and on. I mean, some of you might want to listen to us.
I mean, I guess you can go download our audiobook if you really want to listen to us for that long. Go ahead.
Yes. But like, what nugget did you take, or what do you feel you would add to this? And please share this with somebody who you feel could use a little bit of looking at their goal setting differently to be able to give them a better chance of success and really sustainable momentum as well.
All right. Until next time.
Get after it. Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to the pursuitofbadasserie.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.